No, I've been getting a lot of questions about like, how do I feel? Let's address the elephant in the room. Video is gonna get taken out of context, and I know that at this point I can't really stop people from doing that because that's what my whole existence on the internet is just me being taken out of context and stuff.
Rachel Zegler was supposed to be in trouble. Headlines had already carved her into a cautionary tale, another rising star who flew too close to the spotlight and got burned. She'd been cast in the highly anticipated West End revival of Evita, a role meant to mark her redemption after the Snow White backlash. But instead of a comeback, the show turned into chaos. Reports of tantrums, delays, and clashing egos painted her as the villain. When producers filed a breach of contract lawsuit, the internet didn't blink.
Zegler has been labeled a PR nightmare, and we can see why. The Walt Disney Company seems to be trying to keep her totally hidden, as we haven't seen any interviews regarding Snow White since the controversies surfaced. Of course, people now are just waiting for her next slip-up. What other outrageous thing will she say? But I have a suspicion that Zegler is getting some serious brainwashing media training, so she can keep saying the same things.
Most assumed it was justified. Another celebrity imploding. But then, everything flipped. Just days later, Rachel's legal team filed a countersuit, and the accusations inside are explosive. She's not just defending her name, she's going on the attack, alleging sabotage, harassment, and a targeted campaign to destroy her reputation from the inside out.
When she's starring in it and she's the main character. Go ahead, Rob, play the clip.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
She's a great actress.
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Wow. The ego on this girl is ridiculous.
Wow.
This wasn't just a disagreement. According to Rachel, it was a setup, and the more people read into it, the more the narrative cracked wide open. But the backlash was just beginning. Most people assume actors have all the power, especially when their names headline a marquee. But the truth behind the scenes is much colder. In the entertainment industry, even a famous face is often just another cog in the machine. And Rachel Zegler made that painfully clear. In her own words, you don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You just show up, say your lines, and look how they want you to look.
As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look. That is our job, and that was my job on this production. So again, that's really all I can say.
That wasn't bitterness. That was reality. Rachel wasn't just battling bad press. She was fighting a system that doesn't tolerate dissent, especially not from women who are expected to smile and stay in line. And the Evita revival? That wasn't her vision. It was a project she entered into under tightly controlled conditions, the kind that actors often can't speak out about without violating contracts. Yet now, through this countersuit, she's pulling back the curtain. The image of a difficult actress starts to look more like a smokescreen, a distraction from something far uglier brewing beneath.
In the film industry, when you are an actor, when you sign one of these contracts in the entertainment industry, I think a lot of people on the outside think that if you are somebody who has a lot of publicity around you and your name is attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case.
But oh no, these big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince.
And what happened next would rattle the entire industry. It started with whispers, rumors of Rachel showing up late to rehearsals, clashing with the creative team, refusing direction. Then came the leaks, grainy clips, anonymous director notes. One read, "We're building a musical, not a kingdom." But Rachel thinks she's royalty. Overnight, the internet exploded. She was branded a diva, a meltdown in heels. And for a moment, the entire world seemed to agree. Rachel Zegler wasn't a misunderstood artist. She was the problem. The real blow came with the breach of contract lawsuit.
Which is fine. That's what I signed up for, isn't it? So much ground that I never thought I would be able to cover, and that people think I'm doing poorly, and other people think I'm doing gracefully, and I don't think I'm doing it at all. So
producers accused her of disrupting rehearsals, damaging the production's reputation, and causing financial loss. It was damning and perfectly timed. Just days after the chaos, the suit hit the press. For many, it confirmed what they already believed. She'd self-destructed. Headlines painted her as a cautionary tale. Late-night hosts took jabs. Fan accounts turned on her. It was a digital dogpile. Swift, brutal, and unrelenting. But something about the timeline didn't sit right. Why were leaks surfacing before any official statement? Why was the footage so conveniently framed? And who was behind the curtain, pulling the strings?
What is it like for you now, having all of this? I think it's a lot of pressure, right?
It's definitely a lot of pressure, but I surround myself with very good people who keep me grounded and try to just stay as true to myself as I possibly can.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Rachel, you got time to find some autographs for us, Rachel? Rachel, please. Rachel, you got time to find some, Rachel? Maybe on the way out?
And this wasn't just about Evita anymore. Just when everyone thought Rachel had vanished into silence, she came back swinging. Legally and strategically, her countersuit didn't just deny the producer's version of events. It ripped the entire narrative apart. According to Rachel's legal team, the so-called meltdown was no spontaneous breakdown. It was provoked. She alleges that from the first week of rehearsals, she was met with hostility, isolation, and what she calls a coordinated character assassination. The countersuit paints a chilling picture. Internal memos leaked on purpose, rehearsal notes weaponized, scenes intentionally rescheduled without notice. In one instance, Rachel was reportedly left waiting alone in a rehearsal room for over an hour, only to be told she'd missed a scene she was never informed had changed. She claims the creative team humiliated her in front of cast members, shadow rehearsed her understudy behind her back, and deliberately excluded her from production decisions. All of it, she says, was a trap, meant to bait her into reacting, then leak the fallout to destroy her reputation.
Things do not look good for Rachel Zegler and her acting career as we know it today. What do you think's gonna happen, girl? You are sending tweets, making posts, saying these things at events. You had a character to play. I'm sorry, but dividing people and making comments about half of our nation is not gonna get people in the movie theaters to support you.
But this wasn't just a defense. It was retaliation, a clear message. You don't get to ruin my career and walk away clean. And once she filed that suit, the internet's reaction was instant. The countersuit hit the internet like a wrecking ball. Within hours, TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit turned into battlegrounds. Creators who once mocked Rachel began revisiting their takes, side by side, comparing her behavior to other stars who faced pressure. And suddenly, the story didn't seem so black and white. A viral TikTok captioned, "Hollywood always eats outspoken women alive," racked up over 1 million views in 2 days. In the comments, a flood of people admitting they might have judged her too quickly.
It is the real beginning of my life as a young lady of America. Of America.
Twitter was worse, or louder, depending who you ask. One post that simply read, "So the notes were leaked to destroy her, and y'all just ran with it," got retweeted into a storm of reanalysis. Users combed through footage, timelines, and statements. Questions popped up. Why was Rachel filmed mid-meltdown if rehearsals were closed? Who leaked the director notes? And why did everything conveniently go public just before the lawsuit? The backlash to the backlash had arrived. Some stood their ground, calling the countersuit a PR stunt. Others flipped entirely, now framing Rachel as a woman cornered and smeared.
And then, because, I mean, you seem to be dominating the world of musicals, you're doing Evita in London, right?
Big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan right over there.
Was that your dad whistling?
Yeah. You guys see Stanley Tucci back there?
That'll be fun, huh?
It's gonna be the best time. It's my West End debut. I'm so excited.
You've done a lot of Broadway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did Shakespeare for 20 weeks. I'm coming off of that right now.
20 weeks of Shakespeare.
It's a lot.
Did they say, like, the audiences in England are different than the American audience?
I heard they're more reserved, and I certainly didn't have a very reserved experience on Broadway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in a very, an 800-seat theater in the round, so you really are this close to your audience at times, and I'm with the biggest heartthrob in the world.
The internet once sure of her guilt, was now caught in a frenzy of second guesses. But while social media argued, something even bigger was unraveling backstage. Behind the scenes, the Evita revival was coming apart at the seams. Sources close to the cast described a production in panic mode. Rehearsals were either paused or scaled back to skeleton crews. Morale? Non-existent. No one knew who was really in charge, and no one wanted to be the next name leaked. Internally, one producer reportedly described the atmosphere in a single word: radioactive. The cast was walking on eggshells, the crew kept in the dark, and whispers of cancellation began circulating backstage. Worse still, sponsors began pulling out. A luxury brand originally tied to the premiere event quietly suspended their involvement, saying they'd wait for further clarity around the lawsuit. Translation: no one wants to be associated with this mess.
Do you have a terrible audition experience?
I do. I do have a terrible audition experience.
What is it?
I was actually, oddly enough, auditioning for a Broadway show of a very famous Broadway musical that was having a revival, and the producers and directors were ordering lunch while I was singing.
What?
It was so
Like,
horrible.
actually, while you were singing a song?
Yeah. I booked West Side Story a week later, though.
The new lead, stepping into Rachel's role, now found herself thrust into a part that felt less like a breakout opportunity and more like a poisoned chalice. The excitement that once surrounded the revival had soured. Now every name attached to the show was asking the same question: is this thing even going to make it to opening night? And as cracks formed in the production itself, attention turned to the people running the show. Not the actress who had once been cast out, but the team that may have orchestrated the implosion from the inside. Meanwhile, Hollywood was quietly holding its breath. While the West End buckled under the weight of scandal, Disney watched from the shadows, nervously. Rachel Zegler wasn't just the former lead of Evita, she was the future face of their Snow White reboot. And with controversy spiraling out of control in London, execs in Burbank began sweating bullets. Interviews had stopped. Press appearances canceled. Rachel was suddenly MIA from promotional circuits, and fans noticed. It wasn't subtle, it was strategic. Industry insiders whispered that Disney was quietly distancing itself, not dropping her. Not yet, but definitely pausing any spotlight. Why? Because this wasn't just a PR risk, it was a potential brand disaster. And in Hollywood, nothing terrifies a studio more than unpredictability. Executives reportedly started tracking the legal situation closely, aware that public sentiment could swing again, and with it, their entire campaign for Snow White. Even casting directors were split. Some saw the countersuit as career suicide. Others believed Rachel had nothing left to lose and everything to gain by going public. One veteran agent put it bluntly: "This town doesn't care who's right. It only cares who's safe to hire. And right now, neither side looks safe." But Rachel wasn't done. She had one more move to make. Rachel Zegler's countersuit didn't just shock the industry. It reignited a battle that most thought was already over. But now, a new twist looms. According to anonymous insiders, a third party tied to the Evita production may be preparing to speak out. One source hinted that unreleased footage, possibly showing what really happened the night Rachel was escorted off stage, exists. If that clip surfaces, it could either vindicate her version or end it all. And producers? They're reportedly scrambling to shut it down before the next leak hits the internet. Meanwhile, the narrative is changing again. The same fans who dragged Rachel just months ago are now revisiting her interviews, watching for signs they missed, her awkward moments, her outbursts. Suddenly, they're seen through a different lens. Was she cracking under pressure, or was she being pushed? On TikTok, one creator said it best: "The industry didn't turn on her. It set her up, then lit the match." And if Rachel wins, even partially, it's not just a legal victory. It's a reckoning. It means the showrunners, the PR handlers, and the executives who went silent might be forced to answer for how quickly they threw her under the bus. But even if she loses, she's shifted the narrative. She's not going quietly. And that alone is changing everything. Because the truth is, in Hollywood, silence is compliance. And Rachel Zegler just broke the rules.